For my birthday, my sister gifted me a t-shirt that says question everything, and it has an image of the flat earth. And obviously it was a gift, a joke gift. My sister, I'm fairly sure, knows that even if I would consider the idea of a flat earth, she knows that I would pretty quickly, by myself, by personal observations, would come to the conclusion that the earth is in fact round. But nevertheless, though, I like the shirt because question everything is a good motto, is a very good motto to have. And it reminded me of a question that I like to mess with every so often, mostly when I'm trying to distract myself from whatever might be going on in life at that time. But this question is a pretty interesting question because it could, and I'm only halfway joking, it could literally drive people insane. I've only shared this question with one other person, and this person sometime later told me that he wished I had never told him, that he's tried extremely hard not to think of the question. Because like I said earlier, and again, I'm only halfway joking, it could literally drive people insane. And I remember when that guy, just before I told him the question, I told him, "Are you sure you want to know? Because I assure you this question can drive you insane." And obviously he didn't believe me, right? He didn't believe me that such a question could exist. So he said, "Yeah, sure," like if it was no big deal. And so I told him what the question was, and like I said earlier, he wished that I had never told him that question. So anyways, though, so I figured I would make a video about that question. So if you're like me, whoever is listening, if you're like me, if you have some sort of obsessive-compulsive disorder, or if you simply don't care to know what that question is, I would highly suggest, and again, I'm only halfway joking, I would highly suggest you turn off or click to another video, another YouTube video, because this question could drive people insane. It has messed with me quite a bit, even though I figured out ways to distract myself from that question. Even though when I try to think of that question, it's because I'm trying to distract myself from whatever is going on around me, right? But then I need another question or another something to move me away from that question, to force my brain to stop thinking of that question. So I guess today's video is going to be about a question that can literally drive you insane. The question, before I burdened the masses, my 70-some subscribers, with a question that can drive you insane, I figured I'd give you a way to distract yourself, or at least the way that I distract myself from thinking of this question. Because, like I said earlier, it gets pretty obsessive. I like to imagine myself falling into a black hole, and I know there's a few videos out there of scientists describing falling into a black hole and being spaghettified, but I think they miss one of the most interesting parts, or one of the more interesting things you would experience as you fall into a black hole. And I suspect the reason that they miss this is because they obviously take into account that you will not survive falling into a black hole. So for the purpose of getting the full effect of falling into a black hole, we're going to assume that we are going to survive falling into a black hole. Okay, this is not the question, obviously. This is not the question that could drive people insane. This is just simply a way that I use to distract myself from the question that could drive people insane. This is how I distract myself from the question that I use to distract myself from reality. Okay, so hopefully that makes some sense. So let's assume that we're falling into a black hole, but first we have to set it up. To get the full effect, we have to set it up. For example, it can be a black hole that's in the center of a galaxy. It would be way too bright to be able to see what I want to see in the center of a galaxy. So it has to be what I call a free floating black hole, or in other words, a black hole that's outside of the galaxy, or at least not in the center of a galaxy. And also, it matters how we fall into the black hole. We have to, or I like to imagine that the black hole is behind me. It's falling into a black hole and looking straight at it is not interesting in the slightest, because it's just pure darkness. I mean, you would see, as the way they depict it in movies, you would be able to see what's behind the black hole. But I think it's much more interesting to look away from the black hole, because that's what's going to be the most interesting for reasons that I'm about to describe. So as we're falling into the black hole being behind us, we will see the sky pretty much the same way we see it right now, with the Milky Way or whatever galaxies we're able to see with the naked eye, the stars and all of that. And we'll see the sky very much like you see it down on Earth, as a concave structure, right? As a dome, as being inside the dome, and the stars being like pasted in the sky in a dome shape, right? So the first thing that we should notice as we fall into a black hole is that the stars will start to move. We will be able to perceive the motion of the stars, because time will start to get the dilation of time will start to get more severe the closer we get to the black hole. So that means that time for us will be much slower than the time for the universe. So we should be able to see stars, actual stars, moving around. And eventually, as we get closer and closer to the black hole or to the event horizon, we should be able to see galaxies rotating and supernovas. And the frequency of the supernova should be more and more frequent as we fall into the black hole. Here's one of the things that I've noticed that for whatever reason scientists don't include in their description of falling into a black hole, is that the sky will go from being concave to convex. It'll go from being like being inside of a dome to being outside of a dome. It will go from being like a normal sky to being like a ball. It would eventually become a ball. And the closer and closer we get to the black hole, the more the ball that we will be watching will be faster and faster rotating, and at the same time shrinking. And we will know that we passed the event horizons when that ball shrinks to nothingness. That's when we'll know that we passed the event horizon. So when scientists say that you could pass the event horizon and not notice it, well, yeah, you would notice it if you're not looking up or if you're not looking away from the black hole. But you would definitely notice it if you're looking at the sky. And since you passed the event horizon and time has pretty much stopped for you from your perspective, it doesn't matter how long Hawking's radiation takes to dissipate the black hole. It'll pass instantaneously for you. So as soon as you pass the event horizon, as soon as the ball, which will be the universe from your perspective, disappears, from that moment time stops for you, and then you will be in essence instantaneously emerging from the black hole, because if eons of years had to pass by for the black hole to dissipate, it doesn't matter, because you were stuck in time. So it's pretty much as soon as you pass the event horizon, or shortly after you pass the event horizon, which will be easy to know when, because of the disappearing of the universe from your perspective, you will be emerging in a far distant future, in what scientists call a temperature death universe. So, in other words, surviving a black hole means that you will survive the universe, means that you will live long enough to see the end of the universe. And I think that's pretty interesting. That would be a pretty interesting way to die. Okay, so I guess you've been warned before getting to this point. So if you're still around, that means you really want to know the question. And since I've given you at least one tool on how to distract yourself from the question, I guess I should just go ahead and tell you the question, right? So here's the question. Assuming that the past is 13 or 14 billion years big, and assuming that the future is either at least equally as big, if not infinite, how big is the present? The two viable options, neither seems to make good sense. The first one being that the present is a set amount of time. Maybe let's say, for example, a second. It's a second amount of time. Well, if you think about it, if you focus on it, that second is pretty much all of it is in the past by the time you're able to perceive it. So that doesn't quite make sense, right? But the other option even makes less sense, that the present is instantaneous. How are we able to perceive it if it's instantaneous? How are we able to do anything in that instant? If you try to focus on it, try to focus maybe not on what's going on around you, but just what's going on in your head. Try to focus and try to perceive the moment that your actual thoughts become memories of thoughts. Try to focus in that, and instead of focusing on what's going on around you, try to just simply focus on what's going on in your head. Try to focus and perceive the moment that your thoughts become memories of thoughts. At what point does your thinking become memories of thinking? It's extremely hard to perceive it. It's extremely hard to know, to detect the moment that thoughts become memories of thoughts. It is, I would say, probably impossible, but I've given it a good college try, and I still haven't been able to quite make the point, quite be able to distinguish between thoughts and memories of thoughts. It's just, I guess it takes more memory, more mental powers that I'm able to handle. But anyways, though, so that is the question. How big is the present? It can't be instantaneous, because how can we do anything in an instant? And it can't be in an amount of time. It seems to be contradictory, right? It seems to be the question contradicting itself, the two possible answers contradicting themselves. And actually, to be completely honest, I know the answer. The answer, according to Einstein, is that the present is actually something like an illusion. That there is no such thing as a present. That is just the past, the present, and the future is just a continuation of time, indistinguishable one from the other. But that doesn't quite satisfy the human nature, right? It doesn't quite, at least for me, it doesn't quite feels right. There is something to the present. There's something distinct at this moment. In this present, there's something distinct, at least in perspective. There's something very distinct from the future, the past, and the present. See, right there, I can see it. I can see time passing, present becoming the past, and I still am not able to capture it. I'm still not able to perceive it. That moment that my thoughts become memories of thoughts, I'm not able to grasp it. And if you're as compulsive as I am, you can spend hours trying to capture it, and not only be unsuccessful, but completely mess yourself in ways that you don't want to, at least in ways that you don't want people to know, right? So, anyways, though, that's the way I distract myself from reality, by trying to focus on the moment that my current thoughts become memories of thoughts. Yeah. And it doesn't, I've never been able to capture it. I'm pretty sure I'm not going to be able to do it right now. But it's just a way to distract myself, a way to stop thinking of what's going on around me and simply focus not on what's going on in my head, but try to perceive how my thoughts become memories of thoughts. What's that mechanism? How does it work? How is it even possible? I know I'm probably something like a crazy person, which I guess I am, if I'm focusing on not my thinking, but the passage of time in my thoughts. Yeah, I see how that could come across as crazy. And it could literally drive yourself crazy. The one person I told about this question, he told me that when he would go to bed at night, he would purposefully try to distract himself from thinking about that. That he wished that I had never told him that. And I'm actually very happy that I thought of this question, because it's distracted me from so many things, unpleasant things. It's given me a zen quality over things going on around me that were not very zen-like, that were very I can't think of a word, but anyways, they weren't pleasant. So that's the question. Hopefully people will enjoy it as much as I enjoy it, or understand it at least as much as I try to understand it. So I guess that's it.